Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for choosing Gridiron Insights. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jeff. To my side here is my lovely other co-host, Travis. We are Gridiron Insights, NFL edition, I might add. I may be a little bit distracted during this episode because the Dodgers are on. And, yeah.
Why don't you watch a real sport?
It's the playoffs, buddy. I have to. And midget jello wrestling I don't get on the Hulu channels, so I got to go with what I got, Yeah,
I got a special hookup on that channel.
Go ahead and share all of yours.
Yes, master.
Oh, yes, master.
Wrong button.
And then we'll get this show going.
Boo, 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 boo.
I can look at this and see other things and see what else we can do. Should I start CJ Stroud or Jordan Love this week? Well, considering Stroud is facing the Patriots, I believe, right? Yeah, he's facing the Patriots at New England. It's Houston -7. He is down Nico Collins, which we'll go over. I personally, who's Green Bay? Green Bay's facing Arizona. Arizona's shown some fight a couple times. Just came back and beat San Francisco. So to me, I say start Stroud if it's me in that one. Man, one fantasy question already off.
Oh. Let's kick it off with Matt Ryan's night that was overshadowed by Kirko Chains.
I mean,
how do we let Kirk Cousins throw for 500 yards this week?
509. Like, insane stat. Insane. Great game, though. Typically, we see these Thursday night games are kind of always one of those, like, back and forth. Like, it's either, I feel like the Thursday night games are either, like, Hall of Fame worthy games or the most boring snooze fest games that there are.
And you know what? Although I love the low scoring, give me a game that's 3-2, and I'll love it. But I was actually bought in on this game. They were both throwing haymakers. I mean, it really came down to who's going to make that mistake.
Yeah, I mean, it did come down to that. It was really good. If anybody that is following us or watching this live for any sort of fantasy, go ahead and throw your fantasy questions. We try to get there as much as we can. Obviously, we don't want to keep stopping the broadcast every single time. We do go through all of last week's games, talk about all those, where we were right, where we were wrong. So if you do have any fantasy questions or anything, please throw it in. If you have any betting questions, betting lines, or anything of that nature, go ahead and throw those in. We go over next week's games after we do a recap of these ones. You can also follow our TikTok, which is Gridiron Insights. It's in both of our last videos. So if you click on our profile, go to our last video. It's right there. Just click on it. Go to that page and give us a follow. These are our personal pages. We do the live because both of us have a lot of following on our personal pages. But we'd really love to be able to get a lot of people to start kicking into that Gridiron Insights page, as well as our YouTube. Obviously, I'm not going to have you go to different platforms and stuff, but if you do get a chance, or if you miss the show, or if you're busy and you end up having to do something else, but you want to hear our insights on it, this will be posted on our YouTube, just like our college one was on Monday. We also do a college insights as well and go through all of those games in this upcoming week. So would love if anyone would like to jump into that and follow those. We'd really appreciate it as well. But yeah, I mean, that game was definitely awesome. I'm still not sold on Atlanta or Tampa. Kirko Chains did his thing, but I mean, career high. It was a good game for Kurt, and I love that about it. But at the same point, I mean, he played a good game. Drake London did good, but it wasn't a solid game. Bijan really didn't do much. I mean, that's, to me, it was they made the play when they needed to make the play. Tampa kind of gave that game up because Tampa kind of should have had that at the end, and they gave up that last second drive for the field goal. Good game though. Let's jump to
Man, look, these
international game.
these Vikings, man, look, they can't be beat at home. You send them across the pond, they can't be beat. Like, who's gonna knock the Vikings off?
I mean, my whole thing, I think the most I'm surprised about this game is Aaron Rodgers. There's two main things. Aaron Rodgers, 3 interceptions. And Garrett Wilson, although he had 11 receptions and 101 yards, Garrett Wilson had 22 targets.
13 receptions.
13 receptions, but 22 targets? That is insane. I mean, Rodgers basically said this ball is going to Wilson or no one at all. Start Jameson Williams or Mooney in the flex. Jameson Williams facing the Cowboys. The Cowboys' defense is really depleted. We got lucky to pull out a win against Pittsburgh. I personally would say go with Jameson Williams because I think the Lions have more options, and that's going to leave a lot of one-on-ones with Jameson Williams. And you're looking at Jameson Williams is at least going to get one deep ball a game, kind of like New Orleans, Rasheen Shaheed did on Monday night. He's not going to get you a bunch of receptions, but he's going to get that 140 or 50-yard touchdown reception that's going to get you your points that you're going to need over Mooney, at least I would say, for if you're looking at the flex position. But yeah, that Minnesota Jets game, Breece Hall, what's going on with him? We laugh and we make jokes about Ollie Gordon in college not showing up. Breece Hall's got two. Go ahead.
Yeah, Luke Def, I do see your comment. I'm not sure why it's not working in others, but I can see it. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
One other thing, this guy said trade Mike Evans for A.J. Brown. I have Hurts. If you have Hurts, do not take A.J. Brown because then you have your same quarterback and a wide receiver on the same team. Basically, it's kind of it's a positive negative kind of thing. If and it's a big if Hurts throws the ball to A.J. Brown, yeah, you're getting double the points. You're getting Hurts points and A.J. Brown. But if A.J. Brown has an off game, you're losing out on an entire player because then you got to think Hurts is probably going to have an off game. If Hurts runs it in for a touchdown, A.J. Brown's not getting points. If Hurts throws the ball to Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown isn't getting points. So you're losing out on every single possession potentially. Yeah, you're doubling up on the Hurts A.J. Brown one when they are on page, but A.J. Brown coming back for injury, and Evans, you're guaranteed, at least 5 receptions and 60, 70 yards a game at least, at minimum. If you have A.J. Brown, I'd keep A.J. Brown.
I got one here. Well, I've got a bunch of them coming through. So
I know, I've had some. If some people keep writing, if we miss it or anything, throw it back into chat. Obviously, we've got tons of people joining, so a lot of these ones just fly straight up to the top, and we don't even get to see them. Go ahead.
So, hold on. I just lost it. Hold on. All right, so Jacobs and Worthy for Hall.
Jacobs and Worthy. I would say no, only because Breece Hall, and this is what we're talking about. We're talking right now about the New York Jets and Minnesota game. We're talking about the Jets and Minnesota game. Breece Hall's had 27 yards in his last 19 carries. The last 2 games combined, he has 19 carries for about 27-something yards. Until the Jets figure it out, I would not touch Breece Hall. Same thing, I've got one here from Zay, Breece Hall or Jordan Mason for the rest of the year. For me, it's Jordan Mason. We don't know when CMC is coming back or if he's coming back at all. To me, you stick with Jordan Mason. He's one of the leading rushers in the NFL. He's carrying San Francisco. And Breece Hall has done absolutely nothing these last couple of weeks.
So, Shy, I don't do the fantasy football. I know football. I know the players and all. So that's where my input comes from it. So I'm trying to keep up as much as you are.
Here's a good one. Here's a good one with you. Jackson Smith and Jigma or Jameson Williams as flex, but he has Amon-Ra St. Brown as wide receiver 1. To me, I'm super against. I'm in Jigba as well because I'm super against starting 2, but I don't even like starting wide receiver and running back that are on the same team because again, it goes back to that point here, and this is for Brad something, but it is a thing of if they both have good games, then they both have good games. I mean, you can't control that, obviously, but to me, every play, when Jared Goff's throwing the ball, he can't throw it to both Omron or Jamison Williams every single play. He can't throw it to both of them on one play. So you're missing out on points on one of them every single time.
They could do tip drill, throw it to him, tip it to him.
Still only one guy ends up getting the stats, though, regardless. Just like Kelsey did the other night when he did his little pitch. I've got one more here, and then we'll start talking about some of the games. Olave or Ricard White? Oh, Olave and Ricard White for Godwin.
I'd keep Olave.
I would keep Olave and White if that's what you have, just because you've got a running back and a wide receiver, and you're only getting a wide receiver in return, and you're not even getting a number one wide receiver. You're getting Godwin, who's...
Wait, time out. Hold up. Wait a minute. Olave is going through a quarterback change this week. Spencer Rattler being called up, starter. So is that going to play a hand in?
Olave wasn't getting the ball with Derek Carr anyways. So, I mean, it doesn't really make a difference. My thing is, when you're looking at Olave, and when you're looking at fantasy-wise, you want to get in return equal opportunity for what you're giving up. And in this case, you're giving up a wide receiver and a running back for a second option wide receiver. Godwin is the number 2 on that team. Baker loves going to Evans. So if you have Godwin in there, there's a couple games where you may only get 2 receptions a game. But Olave, and especially with Rattler going in there, I think that actually helps Olave because Rattler is going to have to take risks. And Rattler's got nothing to lose. Carr comes back, Rattler's going to the bench anyways. So Rattler literally is going out there slinging the rock around, and he's going to try to pinch the ball into Olave, give him long balls, whatever he's got to do to try to show other teams, hey, I'm a real option.
So moving on, my Bears get it done again. I'm not going to have to change franchises. We all know what I said last week. So, Caleb,
not just the Bears get it done. This was the Caleb Williams we were promised. Like, this was the Caleb Williams that we were told, hey, this is the number 1 pick. This is the future. I don't want to say future Hall of Famer, but when you get a guy that's the number 1 pick in the draft, that's what you're expecting. And put up or shut up, and he definitely put up these last couple weeks.
Absolutely.
Who'd have thought the Bears would have a 3-game win streak?
In the division as well. 3-0.
Talk about a shootout, though. We talk about Thursday night's game. Baltimore, Cincinnati.
What night was that? Oh, God.
That was Sunday.
Yeah, you skipped some. Or we got a different lineup because my next game was Baltimore and Cincy.
That's what I just said, Baltimore and Cincinnati.
Bro, I swear you said the Colts.
No, Baltimore. I said, what a shootout.
Yeah.
Baltimore and Cincinnati.
It sounded like you said Colts. My bad. Proceed. You have the floor. No, you don't. I want the floor. Real quick.
You go for it.
Shout out to the Bengals defense. Okay, people are going to look at this game and they're going to see 15 carries for 92 yards and a touchdown from King Henry. What you're not going to understand is more than half of that came off of one run in overtime. The rest of it, they bottled Henry up. So I got to give them a prop.
In that same point, though, before overtime, Derrick Henry did only rush the ball 14 times. Why? Why is it that Baltimore is refusing to run the ball with Derrick Henry? Lamar Jackson had 15 carries or 12 carries for 55 yards.
Hold on. I'm not going to say that Baltimore's refusing to run him because the man is the leading rusher in the NFL too.
But at the same point, that's because of a 75-yard touchdown against, what was it, Dallas last weekend or whatever it was. That one. I mean, you got to think, Derrick Henry so far this season has had, let's look at this. in his last couple games, yes, he's the leading rusher in the NFL, but it's also only off of a couple rushes. He's got 572 yards. And if you look at his rushes so far this year, he's got a 51-yarder against Cincinnati, an 87-yarder against Buffalo. That's almost 150 yards right there.
Hey.
And then he's got 29-yarder against Dallas, 29-yarder against Vegas.
Hey.
I mean,
Ashton Gentry's at 1,000 yards and he ain't touched the ball 100 times yet. All I'm saying. It don't matter how many times you carry the rock. If you're
that's what's sad is Derrick Henry's covered or rushed the ball 95 times and only has 572.
So, but it don't matter how many times you touch the ball as long as you're producing. And that's what he's doing. He's making the most of those 10 to 15 touches a game. I mean, Well, hold on. We knew going into the year that the years of giving Derrick Henry the ball 25 plus times in a game, they were coming to an end. Okay. Is he going to rush for 1,000? Absolutely. Is he going to rush for 15? Likely. But we're not going to see those 2,000-yard seasons anymore out of him. We know we're on the decline.
I don't think we're going to see a 2,000-yard out of pretty much anyone.
Yeah, we will. Ashton Gentry.
Not if he goes to the Cowboys like we think. But talk about 10 touches a game. Jamar Chase, 10 receptions, 193 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He couldn't be stopped. And that's worrisome to me looking at Baltimore's defense. We talk about how that team just absolutely shut the Bills down, but then allowed Burrow and Jamar Chase to basically be out there playing catch.
Pretty much. So you can call it 400. Basically, half of Burrow's passing yards came from Chase.
I did like the fact that he did get 9 receptions to
Higgins.
What's his face? Yeah, Higgins. Got the ball to him, which is great because Higgins, obviously coming back from the injury, really, really needed those catches. I got another one here. Start Stroud or Kirk Cousins? I personally would say start Stroud, and the only reason why is just because he's going against New England.
That's a
Stroud. Here's the thing. Atlanta's going against Carolina, and the problem is, even though Carolina's not a great team, that's a division game. And I think a thing is people are going to look at that and see what Kirk O'Chains did last week and expect that again. And we see it all the time where a guy lights it up one week and then the next week we're like, what the heck happened? It wouldn't shock me if you end up seeing it it wouldn't shock me if you see Kirk Cousins throw for like 180 yards and like a touchdown in this game. And the only reason I say that as well is you could see a huge game out of Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier because this could be a game where Atlanta goes up by 2 touchdowns and then just kind of runs the ball the rest of the game. Yep. You know what I mean? This isn't going to be the reason why we've seen Kirk Cousins have such a major game last week was because it was so close. They had to keep passing. They had to keep moving the ball. This game, I don't see that happening. I think it's going to be a little bit more of a run game. You're also going to want to give Kirk Cousins' arm a little bit of rest after that game. I think honestly going with CJ Stroud at New England is going to be the better option than Atlanta against Carolina.
My man,
I got
58 times.
I got 2 more here. Brian Thomas or Ayuk. Brian Thomas for Jacksonville has been lighting it up. I personally would say go with Brian Thomas. Ayuk has not shown me anything since he cried really, really badly to get that contract. He's not done a single thing, and until he does something, I wouldn't put him out there on hopes and prayers. But Brian Thomas for Jacksonville has honestly, I don't want to say saved their season, but, I mean, he's saving Trevor Lawrence's job at this point right now. So I'd say Brian Thomas. And then here's an interesting one. Josh Jacobs or David Montgomery?
Ooh. Let me look at something real quick. Yeah, that is a good one.
Well, we got David Montgomery is at Dallas, and Josh Jacobs is at Green Bay, Arizona at Green Bay.
Oh, Jacobs.
I say go Jacobs. The thing is with Detroit's one with Montgomery, I could see this being kind of one of a Jahmyr Gibbs games. Not really more. I think they're going to kind of give the ball a little bit more to Gibbs than Montgomery in this one because Montgomery runs the ball up the middle very well. Gibbs is more of the bounce outside kind of back. And I think this game with Dallas, how depleted our backside is with Diggs getting injured. I think this is going to be a game more along the lines of bounce the ball to the outside. We've seen what Dallas did against another downhill runner, Najee Harris in Pittsburgh. Najee really didn't do anything in that game. So I think going with Gibbs getting the ball on the outside is going to be your better option. So for me, it's a Josh Jacobs against Arizona in that one. What's the next game that we got?
Commanders, Browns, and our rookie of the year, possibly MVP.
I mean,
Hey,
I don't think he's going to go MVP.
I don't know. I mean, one could hope, you know. I mean, man's playing excellent ball. Like, I mean, yeah, we did get a pick from him early, but on the goal line.
Matt Pisano, out of those four, I would definitely bench Debo. He's got T. Higgins, Debo, Rasheed. I'm guessing Rasheem Shaheed and Jameson Williams. I'm benching Debo in that one,
Absolutely.
especially going against Seattle. I'm just not 100% sold, as you said, on Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels is great, but to me, when I'm looking at their schedule, we talk about how great he is. They've got a great game against Baltimore this week. And when I told you that, I told you he's going to end up having that game where he's not going to produce like we think. You got to remember, he lost week 1 against the Buccaneers and didn't look all that great. Yeah, he won against the Giants in week 2, but he won with all field goals. He didn't score anything.
Okay.
He had a great game against the Bengals, but then Cardinals and Browns. We really haven't seen him face a great defense yet. We haven't seen him go up against a team that is playoff worthy other than what? Maybe the Buccaneers? I mean, yeah, you could say the Bengals, but the Bengals are what, 1-4?
Yeah.
I mean, Cardinals just beat San Francisco, but I mean, San Francisco with nobody. Cleveland with Massage Watson can't throw the ball or run the ball. The only team that they've faced that really has had a decent defense and is a playoff caliber team is the Bucs, and they didn't show up. They lost 37-20. They got blown out. So that's why, to me, Jaden Daniels is doing great. But I want to see in this stretch, I want to see how he does against Baltimore. Next week, he's got the Panthers. That'll be a little bit easier. Then he's got the Bears. That'll be a little bit of a difficult game. At the Giants, we'll see. But then this is the stretch that I want to know. Steelers, Eagles, Cowboys, those 3 games. That's what I want to know. How is he going to play in back-to-back-to-back weeks against top-tier teams? You know what I mean?
He throws for 500 against the Cowboys.
Possibly. By that time, though, he's going up against Dallas. That's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks from now. Cowboys at that point are already going to have Micah back. We're going to have DeMarcus Lawrence back. It's going to be a whole different team by that point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, great game. Great game. But let's not forget it was against the Browns. And not the Browns that we thought that they were going to be. I honestly think
the Browns are not a knockoff team, though. I mean, you got to think about what's on that front. I mean, you got Myles Garrett, then you got J.O.K. at linebacker. I mean, the Browns, yeah, they're not the defense that we thought they were going to be. They're not the team we thought they were going to be. But you still have some solid players over there. I mean, Miles
But
Garrett. Miles Garrett's what, third in the league right now for sacks?
that's what I was kind of looking. I was going to look at because to me, Miles Garrett hasn't really done anything this year.
I think he's
Miles
got
Garrett hasn't shown me anything
it's like
as
3 or
far
4.
as let's see. Montgomery or Olave. I like for Trent here. I like Olave, and the only reason is Spencer Rattler is going to have to go out there and try to prove that he is a starter, and he's going to be trying to throw the ball into a lot of areas where he should not be throwing it, but that's going to also call for a lot of passing and a lot of opportunities. Nerm, I've seen yours pop up a couple times. Let me answer. I just traded Jalen Reed and Aaron Jones for Mixon, but I might get Reed back for Dell. I wouldn't get Reed back. If you got Tank Dell, if you've got Tank Dell and you have Mixon, then that's difficult because you don't want to have Tank Dell and Mixon both being on the same team. I would say, yeah, I go with that. Jalen Reed or Jaden Reed for the Packers. I think that he will come. I think once the Packers get rolling, Love gets back to 100%. I think they'll be doing a lot better. Dude, I'm looking at this week's game for the Browns. Did Garrett Wilson or did Myles Garrett not play?
I'm not sure.
He has no stats. While you're looking that up, I'm going to look at a couple things. Joshua says Dobbins or Tyreek. To me, let's see here. I know Dobbins is facing Denver. Denver's got a heck of a defense, and that's kind of scary to me. Miami's got. I'd definitely go Dobbins this week because Tyreek has a bye week. So I wouldn't definitely not go with Tyreek. Unless if you're talking about a trade. Oh, you said Dobbins for Tyreek. Hopefully Tua's coming back. So if you can get that trade, I would take it just because of that point of Tua should be coming back. And I think that's going to be a good one if that person will accept that trade. Let's see. Dak or Hurts? That one, Dak or Hurts, I would wait until game time. If what?
Bench both of them.
Run with no quarterback. No. If A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are back, obviously I would say go with Hurts. Both of them are questionable. They are having a little bit of an easier game facing Cleveland. Cleveland hasn't been the best, but if either one of them, Devontae or A.J. Brown, is injured, then I say go with Dak because I do believe Detroit is going to beat Dallas. So I think Dallas is going to be throwing the ball a lot to try to keep in that game.
So moving on to the next game.
One person did say he did play. He had no stats for the second time ever. So you're Garrett Wilson. Thank you, Ox Anime. Thank you for letting us know that.
4 sacks on the year, though. I mean, but moving on, we got the Colts and Jaguars. And the one question I have for you before we get into the breakdown is Joe Flacco, Hall of Fame worthy? Like, he's
remind me, Flacco, does he have a Super Bowl?
He does. Hey, remember the blackout Super Bowl against the 49ers?
That's right. Against his brother. That's right.
Hardball. Yep.
That's so hard. I'd love to say yes, but it's also so hard because he did lose his job. Like, he's now no different than Fitzpatrick. He's a journeyman backup.
but kicking butt while doing it. I mean, you know, they were a field goal away, man. Like Flacco worked his magic and 24 points in the fourth quarter. Do you
Yeah,
understand?
I mean,
24 points in one quarter.
but still lost to Trevor Lawrence and the last place Jags.
I mean, they should go ahead and move that team to England or London, whatever, and start a whole new franchise down there. Like Jaguar,
I mean,
I'm so sick of the oh my god, we got a great year. Like let's go back to what was it like 2015 when they had Saxonville and they were knocking everybody
mhm.
out and like touchdown Lenny, playoff Lenny was going crazy. You had Bortles in the backfield,
Blake Bortles. That was their savior, Blake Bortles.
and then it just kind of died. You
Yeah.
go back a couple years before that, back when what was my man's name? Fred Taylor was there, like early 2000s. Hot,
Maurice Jones Drew.
Marty Jones, like hot run, and then they just die. Like I'm tired of
Yeah.
seeing that. Like I want to see Jacksonville do something. I like the black uniforms. I like the environment of the area. Like
Remember when they changed around their entire jerseys? They did that different. Remember they did the two-tone helmets that was
yeah,
like the black and it went into the gray, and then they did the one that had like the Jaguar print all over it. It looked
yeah,
horrible. I agree with you. I don't think I look at Jacksonville and I kind of look at them and kind of ask why. Like you have Trevor Lawrence, you have ETN, you have you know Christian Kirk. Last year you had what, Calvin Ridley. Like you have the other Josh Allen. You've got a lot of talent on that team.
Paul
Yet
Walker.
constantly, year in and year out, you were just one of the worst teams in the division. Why? And this kind of comes back to what we talked about and what you tagged me about. Sometimes it's not just the quarterback. Like we talk about quarterbacks that go to different places and all suddenly they're great after they sucked. Sometimes it's just the organization. We talk about Andy Dalton, talk about Baker Mayfield. They couldn't do anything in Carolina. Then they go on and both of them are being successful.
Hey,
And it's
you're forgetting a major name in there. Sam Darnold.
or Sam Darnold. That's what I mean. Not Andy. Andy Dalton is stepping up now. Darnold and Baker going to a different spot, and then boom.
Yep.
I got one here: Mason, Pollard, or Moore in the flex. If you got Jordan Mason in there, I would take Jordan Mason. He's been running the ball really, really good, and also Seattle did not look good last week against the Giants. And it's a very short week for them. I don't know if they're going to have the turnaround time. Their front D line is beat up. Their linebackers are beat up. I think they're missing 4 DBs as well. I think San Francisco is going to be able to run the ball all over them. And I think Jordan Mason is your one there if you're looking for a flex position.
All right. Now, this game, man. Look, so I didn't have a dog in this fight. I like Buffalo. I like Houston. Both of them are making noise. I mean, I like Josh Allen. He is a. I like to think of him as like our modern day Ben Roethlisberger, just a big, burly, mean quarterback that don't mind running through your face. CJ
Mm-hmm.
Stroud, it took me a minute to get on that hype for CJ Stroud. Like I've never liked him, but after probably week
That was a little.
10,
That was a little aggressive.
but
I didn't like him.
I didn't like him, man. Like there was just
CJ, if you ever end up seeing this, we love you, buddy.
oh
You're
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. It was like, and I think what it was because I didn't watch him. It was probably the end of the season when I saw him. When I was like, Houston making a playoff run.
You know why you didn't like him is because he's from Ohio State. That's why you didn't like him. You coming from Bama, you didn't like him because he came from Ohio State.
I liked Zeke. I like Marvin Harrison. I like Bosa. I mean,
That was back. That was back in the day when they didn't have to face Bama in championships or anything. All right.
but back to the point on this. Wow, terrible, terrible clock management in the end. Buffalo, play your cards smart. You know, zero timeouts used. Like you just
3 straight incomplete passes.
Buffalo, you lost this game because of poor management, game
Oh
management.
yeah,
Like
absolutely.
if you go back and look at CJ, you're giving me the ball back. Like nobody could believe what we had just saw.
Not just giving him the ball back. You went for it'd be different if you were on like the 30-yard line or so and you do 3 straight passes. Because then you punt, you can still pin them deep down to like the 10-yard line. You were inside the 5-yard line trying to do 3 straight passes. When you're punting it, your best case scenario is you're giving them the ball back at what, they're 45, so they got to pick up 10 yards for a 50-yard field goal. Like, it wasn't so much to me that they were doing passes. It's where they were trying to do the passes. And also, no Khalil Shakir, your number 1 wide receiver, was down. What were you trying to pass the ball? Like, absolutely poor management. I've got one.
I love Keon Coleman. Coleman is a national treasure this year, and he's going to become a bright, dominant star within this league. But he is not him yet. Okay, one reception, 49 yards, and a touchdown. Hooray! How many targets?
I've got one here that somebody commented, and I just want to point this out to them because you'll get a kick out of this. PCA said, "Where would I plug in more? DJ Moore. I would feel dumb to bench him, but I got Evans and Godwin already.
I'd put him over Godwin.
Take out Godwin and put in Moore. You never, ever should have 2 wide receivers on the same team playing because every single passing play, one of your wide receivers is not making points. Every play."
So, real quick, let's take a moment to thank our sponsors.
Thank our sponsors. Thank you, Mountain Dew.
With the Under
Mountain
Armour.
Dew.
Hey, can't forget about the Under Armour.
And Under Armour. Every broadcast. Mountain Dew, Under Armour. We appreciate you. They don't actually sponsor us, guys. We just always seem to have Mountain Dew and Under Armour on every time. If the Dodgers blow this, I swear I'm shoving a beefy 5-layer burrito up your butt. I'm kidding.
So, moving on. All right.
One thing, real quick. One thing about that game. And I want to go over this once we get done with this week's because we did have a coach get fired this week. T's and P's to Robert Saleh. Do you know that Robert Saleh actually let me know? Do you know that he's making $20K a day to sit on his butt? I wish I had that job. But I want to go over once we do get done with this. I want to go over before we go into next week who's on the hot seat this week.
All right. So looking at this Bronco Raider game, I mean, I wasn't too impressed with anything. I mean, 2 highlights that stand out to me is Bama man, Surtain, 2 interceptions, and then shout out to Brock Bowers for getting his first touchdown.
On the very first play of the game, which I was pissed about because I took Denver first half. I will say this, though. Huge shout out to Bo Nix. This Denver defense has given him the ball back. He has played smart lately. One sec. Jake has wrote this a couple times, so I just want to help him out. He says he needs help. He's 1-4. Running backs, Bijan, Pollard, Ramondre, Etienne. His wide receivers are Nico, Cup, JSN, and Flowers. Well, Nico Collins, I think they just announced is out. Cooper Kupp is out. So both of those are going to be your bench guys. You're going to have to start JSN and Flowers. To me, I would probably tell you go into your free agency, see what's available. You're gonna need it basically. Running back wise, this week especially, I would start Bijan for sure. And let me jump to this week's schedule real quick, just so we can help this guy out. He's 1-4. He kind of needs our help. Yeah, definitely start Bijan facing Carolina. I think this is going to be a breakout game for Bijan. And I wouldn't start Ramondre Stevenson because Tennessee is facing not Tennessee. New England's facing Houston. I think Houston's going to get to a lead, and I think this is going to be a Drake May. They're going to need to pass the ball a lot to stay with Houston. I would honestly tell you I'd go Tennessee. I'd go Pollard. Facing Indy, I think that Tennessee Pollard is going to have more options and get you more. ETN facing the Bears over there in London. The problem is I'm not sold on Jacksonville, and Bears have a pretty good defense as well, Jake. So if it's me, if you're picking two, I'm going Bijan and Pollard. As for wide receivers, you have to kind of go JSN and Flowers because Cooper and Nico are both kind of out of it. Another one that I have, I need help. Who should I start? Kyler with Marvin Harrison or Jordan Love with Wicks? If it's me, I start Jordan Love with Marvin Harrison. That's who I'd go with. You don't ever want to start a wide receiver and a quarterback from the same team. It's so hard because then if your wide receiver or if your quarterback passes to anybody else, you're losing out on points. So I hate going through that. Start Olave or Devontae Smith? Well, until we know if Devontae Smith is actually playing in this game, I say start Olave. Let's see what else. Jake said, any trades I should make? I'd trade for wide receivers. Based on what you told me, wide receivers wise, you don't really have much of anything there for wide receivers. Let's go back to some of these games here. All right, but Bo Nix stepped up, and he's not turning the ball over. We're seeing a different Bo Nix than what we seen at the beginning of the year.
What I love about Bo Nix is we don't see too many quarterbacks nowadays, that just gritty, just fighting with the coach. And when I say fighting, it's not fighting. It is passionately getting your point across.
Oh, yeah.
He's spunky. I like him.
Did you see his little spat with Sean Payton when he came off the field?
That's what I'm talking about.
He said, they asked him, what was that about? He said he loved me, and I just told him I loved him too. This person wants us to rate their team. SP, he's got Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers, Pollard, Rico Dowd, Evans, Wilson, Wicks, Kelsey, Pitts, McLaughlin, and the Browns D. Get rid of the Browns defense. They are not doing good. Get rid of Browns defense. Get rid of Rico Dowd. The Cowboys can't run the ball no matter what. You really have if it's me, I would be trading either Kelsey or Pitts. There's no point to have two tight ends on your team other than a bye week maybe, but you got perfect trade option there to be able to trade away either Kelsey or Pitts for a better running back because you honestly, me personally, I don't keep two tight ends. I keep one tight end, and then when my one tight end has a bye week, I go in and I just sign a free agent because there's always at least one free agent that could put up minimum amount of points for me that I can go in and add. You've got great tight ends there, but you're only going to be starting one of them. So not a bad team. Go in, drop the Browns defense, pick up a team that is going to Houston that's facing New England this week. The Bears facing Jacksonville maybe. Pick up one. There's going to definitely be people there. Start Bigsby or Dowdle. Start Bigsby. Dowdle can't run the ball. And Aiden Hutchinson, I'm telling you right now, is going to be plugging the hole this weekend and going to be getting a couple sacks. All right. Next one. 49ers. Oh, gosh. This game ruined me. I had San Francisco. I was so pissed at the end of that game.
Is that what Kyler threw up the piece and took off on him?
Hey, I will say this, though. This is probably the last good week that we're going to see of Kyler.
Hey,
because Call of Duty is coming out, and we ain't going to see Kyler Murray play good for the rest of the year. So it was great while it lasted. Kyler's done good, but you want to know what's funny to me? So if you're looking at ESPN, right? You're looking at ESPN just as I am, right? The schedule. Look at all three. They always show the highest passer, the highest rusher, and the highest receiver, correct?
every one of them 49ers.
Every single one of them 49ers, yet Arizona won this game. Arizona had a great defensive line. Brock Purdy, without Christian McCaffrey, is not the guy. He does not have, and don't get me wrong, Jordan Mason's killed it, but Jordan Mason isn't the one that's bringing up linebackers, that's bringing up safeties. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, they're still playing back, which means Brock Purdy trying to pass the ball isn't happening right. He's trying to fit the ball in. Should I start Geno or Goff? Start Goff. Dallas's defense is absolutely horrible. Geno's facing San Francisco, and Geno did not look good last week. And it's a short week for him, going from Sunday to Thursday's game. Start Goff going up against Dallas for sure.
You know, I'm glad you brought up Geno, because we'll go ahead and skip over the Packer Rams and we'll come back to it.
Yeah, I like it.
The reason Geno did not look good is because of that big, sexy Dexy Lawrence in the middle. How about 3 sacks for the big man? Nose tackle. That is why Geno did not have a good game. His name is Dexter. And we're not talking about laboratory.
He definitely did it, but what did it to me more was Seattle's defense. They're depleted. They don't have anyone. All right, this person's wrote a couple times. Should I start Brian Thomas Jr. or Josh Jacobs at the flex spot? Josh Jacobs. Going up against Arizona, Josh Jacobs. Brian Thomas Jr. is facing the Bears, and the Bears have very good safeties and very good DBs. Their defense has been good, and it's a London game. We seen last week with Aaron Rodgers throwing 3 interceptions. For some reason, London games, something crazy always happens, and the teams it just always is a weird game or a weird outcome. That turf also in Tottenham, it seems like for some reason when we get there, guys just have trouble. I personally take Josh Jacobs in that flex spot. But back to what I was going to say. Seattle's defense couldn't do anything. They could not stop the run. They couldn't stop the pass. I mean, Tyrone Tracy Jr. We got a bunch of people in chat. Is anybody telling me, did anybody have Tyrone Tracy Jr. starting this week? Because I didn't even know who it was.
Who?
Exactly. 129 yards?
Who?
129 yards. Darius Slayton. 122. Old man Slayton coming back looking like he's... I mean, Darius Slayton coming back and torching Seattle.
Wait a minute. Did he play receiver for the Patriots when they won the Super Bowl back in
I don't even know. I mean, and that's the thing is Geno looked terrible. That team the Giants did whatever they wanted to. Seattle had nothing. Seattle could do nothing. And to me, that's sad because the Giants haven't done anything all year, but they look like Super Bowl contenders in this game. You know what I mean? Like, they just absolutely ran over Seattle in every aspect. And we'll go over Thursday's game here. Jump back here. Green Bay at the Rams.
You didn't have to jump back. We don't ever have to talk about them. Just, I want to let you know that. Like, we don't ever have to talk about that team, okay? I'll be perfectly fine with it.
I get it. You're a Bears fan, but we still have to address it. We still run a podcast. We still have to hit everywhere. Also, I know we've got a couple people that are in our chat. I just want to reiterate, these are our private channels that we do this live on. We do it every Wednesday for our NFL broadcast. We do it also every Monday for our NCAA broadcast. We go over Heisman, bowl games, upcoming games, things of that nature. We do have a Gridiron Insights TikTok page. If you go to either one of our page and look at our last video, there's the Gridiron Insights. Just click on that. Please jump over and give that one a follow. It only has I think 3 or 4 followers right now. We just kind of started up that TikTok. We really want to get a lot of juices running on that one. So please jump over and go to that one. We do also post our bets every Saturday and every Sunday, our 3 locks of the day. The last couple of weeks, both of us have gone 2-1. So please jump over to that one and be able to add it. That way we can get a lot more followers and stuff on that one as well, other than using our private pages here all the time. We love you guys with it. We appreciate it, but we do want to get that page up and going. Go Pack, go. Jordan Love came back. Rams made it close. Once again, this is another thing, though. If you look at the stats, every single one of them were Rams.
Every single one of them.
Stafford, Kerryon Williams, and the leading receiver, Jordan Whittington. He's that guy that actually killed it during preseason that they're saying, like, what's his face? Sean McVay found another diamond in the rough, just like he did with Puka Nacua and stuff.
We'll see.
I'm impressed with the Rams. I think they've played a lot better. Park, Jaden Reed, or Chris Godwin. I say go with Jaden Reed. There's a lot with the Green Bay Packers wide receivers right now, and Reed's going to need to step up, and I think he's going to end up having a pretty good game. Kenneth Walker or Alvin Kamara?
Kamara.
I'm saying go with Kamara only because with Spencer Rattler coming in there, Kamara is going to have a bigger role for a little bit.
Look for a lot of screen passes and dump offs to him.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them are going to run it up. I mean,
Yep. Bowers and Cooper Kupp for Harrison Jr. I wouldn't take it only because when Kupp does come back, which he is, I mean, last week he was listed as doubtful, so he's on the up and up. He's no longer just out. It's kind of a week-by-week thing. And also with Harrison Jr., let's not forget, as soon as this new Call of Duty game comes out in 2 weeks, Harrison Jr. ain't going to have a quarterback that's going to be throwing him the ball there, Daniels. So I personally would say stick with Bowers and Kupp. Vlad says Kraft or Ferguson. Who the hell's Kraft or Ferguson? Kraft and mac and cheese? I'm trying to think of who would be Kraft and who would be Ferguson. Vlad, I know you're watching this chat live. Please explain to me who is Kraft and Ferguson.
And while he's explaining that, let's jump into this Sunday night game where if I'm the NFL, hey, regardless of how great of an athlete he is, regardless of...
Let's go Cowboys.
Hey.
Let's go Cowboys.
On behalf of the Cowboys, George Pickens, you got to go, man. There's no room for it. No room for it at all. And when I say you got to go, we need to see at least a suspension in here.
You know what we need to see? Hey, don't we know the Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl? No, we're not.
Oh, my God.
We're not going to the Super Bowl. Honestly, we'll probably end up – I don't even think Cowboys make the playoffs. So, NYC Angelo, I dropped Spears for Bucky Irvin. Win or lost, full PPR. Bucky's coming along for Tampa. I've honestly been really impressed. But Spears has stepped up for Tennessee as well. Honestly, I think you kind of tied. I'm not going to say it's a win or a loss. I think both of them have upsides. Honestly, I think it's a game by game. It honestly comes down to who they're facing that week right then and there, I think is what it's going to come down to. I think, honestly, you tied on it. AJ, yeah, you won in that one if you got all that. You get Almiron, J.K. Dobbins, Rico Dowd, and gave away K9 and Garrett Wilson. Yeah, you won that one. All right. What were you gonna say? Sorry, just go ahead and say it one time. Just go ahead and say it one time. I got my earbuds in. I got my beats in. Go ahead. Who won that game? Who?
Dallas won the game.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I will say this though. That was the worst thing ever. A almost 2 hour delay to start the game. I fell asleep. I'm a Cowboys fan for all of you that want to know this. I'm a Cowboys fan, unfortunately.
I fell asleep too.
I fell asleep at the beginning of the fourth quarter. I woke up at the 2-minute warning and was like, what? And then we get the ball at the 1-yard line. And for some odd reason, Mike McCarthy decides, hey, let's try to give it to our running back. Even though we can't run the ball, let's give it to our running back to try to jump over. Pittsburgh's linebacker, he timed that shit perfectly on that one. I'll give him his shout-outs on that. He timed that perfectly. But why you don't just do a QB sneak? It's not like Dak is this tiny guy. Dak's a big guy. You're on the half-yard line. QB sneak. We almost lost the game right there because you didn't want to QB sneak with Dak. And then luckily, Dak is able to pierce the ball into Tolbert on that side. That honestly, Dak could throw that ball 10 times, 9 times that's going to be incomplete.
Absolutely. He timed it perfectly.
Why we went with that play, one, I have no idea, but why even the play before that? Why not just freaking do a QB sneak like every other team in the league? That's my rant. Cowboys won. I'm happy about it. I won good money off of it. Dallas was one of my locks. It was a lot closer than it should have been, though. 3 times we were in the red zone. 3 times Dallas was in the red zone. And we 1 fumble, 2 interceptions.
What's going to get him over the hump?
Top 10 draft pick and taking Jackson Dart.
Moving on.
No, what's going to get us over the hump is next year, whatever pick we have in the first round, taking Mr. Heisman himself, Ashton Genty. That's what's going to help get Dallas over the hump, is getting a running back in there. Thoughts on Romeo Doubs stacked with Jordan Love, full PPR? I hate doing wide receivers and quarterbacks from the same team. I've said it a billion times on here. Do not have 2 players from the same team, whether that's quarterback and wide receiver, whether that's running back and wide receiver, whether that's wide receiver and tight end. What that basically means is every time your QB, every time Jordan Love takes a hike and throws it to Reed, every time he takes a hike and throws it to tight end or anybody else other than Dobbs, you're losing points. Every time Jordan Love calls hike and hands the ball off to Josh Jacobs, you're losing points. Not just 1 point, now you're losing double points because you're not getting anything with Jordan Love and you're not getting anything with Romeo Doubs. You're taking a risk when you do 2 players from the same team. Pick 2, Mike Evans, Brian Thomas Jr., or Metcalf. This week, I'm going Mike Evans and Brian Thomas Jr. Metcalf facing the 49ers. That's a little bit harder, and it's a quick turnaround. Going from Sunday to Thursday, that's a really quick turnaround. I would not go with that. I would not take Josh's advice. No offense, Josh. Seattle looked horrible last week. They have a very quick turnaround. They don't have a lot of time to put a whole game plan together like you would with a full week. Me personally, I'm saying Evans and Brian Thomas Jr., but that's just me. Bears, Chargers, or Bucks defense this week? Bears going up against Jacksonville in London. I think that's going to be like a 20-17 style game. Chargers, the problem is Bo Nix has figured it out. Denver put up 37 last week. Buccaneers have been figuring out, they've been putting up 28 to 30 every game, so I wouldn't go with that either. What is happening to Zamir White? Pretty simple. He plays for the Raiders. I mean, I'm not wrong. I mean, pretty simple. He plays for the Raiders. When Antonio Pierce comes out and says, I don't know if I'm going to go with Aiden O'Connell or what's his name? I'm drawing a blank right now.
Minshew.
Minshew, man. He's like, I don't know if either one of those two are going to be playing quarterback. Who's your third stringer? Like, who else are you going to have in there?
Hold up. Let's see what it is. Hold
up. So while you're looking that up here, I understand the Bucks D since Rattler is starting for the Saints, but here's the thing: Rattler's got nothing to lose. He's coming in there. He wasn't even the backup. One sec, Trav. Let me finish this here. He wasn't even the backup last week. They had they had Chris Haney come in and play quarterback. Rattler's going in there with nothing. So he's going to be trying to sling it, trying to make a name for himself. They still have Kamara. They still have Olave. They still have Rashid Shaheed. I personally, don't get me wrong, Bucks defense is good, but it is a division game. It is a rivalry style game for NFL. I'm just not. I'm worried more about Spencer Rattler going in there with nothing to lose and slinging. If he throws 3 picks, everybody's going to basically be like, oh, well, that's what he was supposed to do. But if he goes in there and plays great and doesn't give a care in the world and tries to fit the ball in places that nobody thought he would, that's where he's dangerous. Who's the third stringer?
Who?
Who is it?
They don't have one.
Oh, see, so that's what's happened to Zamir White. The Raiders, Antonio Pierce is like, I don't even know if either of our only 2 quarterbacks on our roster, and I don't think either one of them are going to play quarterback.
So it goes Minshew, O'Connell, and then it goes to the running backs, Abdullah.
Hey, maybe Zamir White's going to have a hell of a game if he plays quarterback.
Hey, there you go. Hey, Wildcat, whole time.
Brody, he's 4-1. Do I give up Devontae Smith and Garrett Wilson for CMC? No, you do not, because there's no telling when CMC is going to come back.
No.
Joe Johnston put this all in capitals. Big question. Trade Drake London for Bijan Robinson and Chris Olave. I have Cook, Walker, and Harrison.
I'd make it. I mean,
I would.
London had a pretty big game this past week, but how is he going to do that week in and week out?
I feel like London had more receptions and receiving yards in this one game last week than he's had in his entire career. I would personally take that in that case. And if you do make that trade, if they do it, I would honestly start Bijan instead of Walker. Just because of the fact, like I said, I think Walker and I think Seattle just has too much to try to figure out right now. Let's see. We already answered that one. Is Neighbors playing? I don't know if Malik Neighbors is playing. I don't think he is yet. I think he's still in that concussion protocol.
Powerful.
Yeah. Answer that one. Laporta or Kraft this week? Laporta. Dallas does not have linebackers. Micah Parsons still most likely going to be out. Sorry, I'm watching the Dodger game at the same time if anybody's asking, so ball goes flying up in the air. I got to watch out. Dallas does not have good linebackers. They're not going to be able to keep up with Laporta. I do think that Lions are going to dominate that game. I don't believe Twitch. I don't believe Neighbors is playing. I'm fairly certain that he is still out. Start 2, Brandon Ayuk, Drake London, Devontae Smith. I mean, you kind of got to go with Brandon Ayuk or Drake London only because Devontae Smith is still listed as questionable. I wouldn't throw him in there just because you don't know if he's going to play or not. Yes, Mikey, we do fantasy questions. Try to keep up as much as we possibly can with them. Darnell Mooney and Wan'Dale Robinson. I'd go with Wan'Dale Robinson just because Neighbors is out. Robinson is really the only option for the Giants. Thought on Devontae Adams. Got him with my 3rd pick. So mad. Honestly, Devontae is a great player. But once he gets traded, to either the Jets or whatever team he's going to get traded to. Devontae, I would be shocked if he plays another game for the Raiders. I don't ever see him playing for the Raiders ever again. Once he does get traded, I think it's a great thing. I think you're going to have a hell of a player if he ends up going and playing with Rodgers. Debo and Bijan trade for Kerryon? No, I'd keep Debo and Bijan in that one. Trade Adams, Eckler, Pickens, Jamo for Gibbs and Terry. I have Breece, Saquon. I will have Breece, Saquon, and Gibbs. The problem is you've got great running backs there, 3 great running backs. You would need to know what you have as wide receivers because you're giving up Devontae Adams and Pickens and Jamo. So you're giving up 3 wide receivers and 1 running back for one running back and 1 wide receiver. Kind of got to know who your other wide receivers are because you can't start a team with just running backs. So to me, you've got to kind of get some points back there in the wide receiver position here. Go ahead with the Monday night game. I really wasn't thrilled with the Monday night game. It was kind of a boring game.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I'm over, and this is not the typical. I'm tired of them always winning or whatever. I'm tired of the Chiefs. I'm just tired of seeing them. I mean, yeah, Mahomes. You can win with just about anybody on the field with you. You proved it. Juju, kudos to him for finally, stop dancing or whatever and focus on football. You're producing.
Or go with Laporta. Go with Laporta instead of Freiermuth. Go ahead.
Kareem Hunt, you ain't beating the hell out your woman anymore. So you're back on the football field. Like it's always some kind of drama around these players where I'm kind of over it,
Here's my thing, and here's my take on the Chiefs. I look back, and I've said this multiple times, I look back years ago when Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce came in and they took down Brady. Everybody loved them. They did it. Yes, they took down Brady. Everybody was all about them. And you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Everybody loved Patrick Mahomes when he was taking down Brady. Now that he's the new Brady, nobody likes him.
Don't get me wrong. I like Patrick Mahomes. I mean,
Matt, Etienne, Bigsby, or Justice Hill, I'd go Tank Bigsby.
Chicago had a chance to have Patrick Mahomes, and of course, they fumbled the damn ball. But it's not. It's just.
Didn't you guys take Trubisky in that draft?
Yeah. Don't remind. But it's not that I don't like the Chiefs. It's the same thing over and over and over. Like, I get if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If they can't stop it, don't change it. But it's the same thing over and over. Like,
I get it. I do.
Put a little swag to your game. Put a little more swag. I mean, when I say swag, you ain't got to come out there. You ain't got to be out there celebrating. Like Travis still has all that tied down, but do something more with the playbook.
It's the Chiefs, dude. They're doing freaking. Do you not remember last year with the little merry-go-round, the underhand pass? Mahomes did a behind-the-back pass in preseason. What are you talking about?
Have we seen it though?
I watched it in preseason. I had to go back and rewind it. All right, let's get on to this week. Let's go through some of these ones here. San Francisco at Seattle. San Francisco minus 3.5. I've said it multiple times. I don't care if this game is in Seattle or not. Seattle has a problem. They started out the year super hot. Their defense has gone to absolute crap. Give me San Francisco. Give me the minus 3.5. Seattle couldn't do anything. Their defense couldn't stop anything. Their offense, Geno looked scared. Geno looked like he didn't know what he was throwing to or who he was. He looked like he was seeing ghosts out there. And because of a quick turnaround, Sunday afternoon game, keep in mind, it's not Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon game, to now all suddenly a Thursday game, San Francisco is more prepared, I believe, than Seattle. Seattle's got too many question marks to be able to do.
All right, so with both of these teams, you just said, Seattle has too many question marks. So does the 49ers. I mean, so we don't have 49ers, what's his name? Hufada or whatever, the safety. He's out. Mm-hmm. Bosa, where have you been? Fred Warner still shows up, but remember, this defense is still without Drake Greenlaw. So there's a lot of question marks on the 49ers. Okay, so I do like the Niners. I do like the 3.5. But the total, the 49.5, is not going to be one of them games.
Under.
Yeah.
Way under. Here's my thing. I get that San Francisco has a lot of problems as well. But at the same point, San Francisco led that game against Arizona all the way up until the final 2 minutes of that game. Seattle, from the kickoff, didn't have a shot against the Giants. That's my whole thing, is I understand that they both have issues, but one of them lost to Arizona, who's been a decent team lately. The other one lost to the Giants. And that's where I'm going to go with that. While you start this next one, I'm going to mute myself so I can still hear you, but I really got to go too. Yes. So I'm going to mute myself real quick. And yeah.
Huh? No. So going across the pond this week, Chicago, and -2.5. Chicago, I got them for the win, unbiased, but 44.5. I see Chicago put up 34 alone. And Trevor, he still can sling the ball. He's got some weapons. I can see some late touchdowns, maybe 17 points by the Jaguars. So I would take the over on this 44. Caleb Williams, he's showed us who he really can be. Multiple 300-yard games now, being a little bit smarter with the football. The defense seems to be rallying, working as one. So, there's a lot of question marks again with Jacksonville. So give me the Bears, but definitely winning by more than 2.5, and the over is definitely going to be more than 44.
Here's my thing. I do agree with you. A total is going to be over 44. I do agree with the Bears under the 2.5. Are we going to see another Trevor Lawrence that we've seen the last couple weeks? Are we going to see the Jacksonville that we've seen last week versus Indy that put up points, that moved the ball? Are we going to see that? Or are we going to see the Jacksonville that we've seen the other 4 games that they've just gotten absolutely destroyed? I think Chicago has a lot more options. They are able to move the ball. Swift has came around and is finally a part of that offense, and I think that's been the major thing when it's came to – I think that's been the major thing with Caleb Williams these last couple weeks since he's came along. They finally got that running game going, which has now opened up that passing game way, way more. I agree with you 100%. I think Chicago and Caleb Williams, I think they handle this Jacksonville game. I love that it's a 7:30 a.m. For us, we're in Idaho. It's 7:30 a.m. because we get 7:30 a.m. football all the way up until Sunday night at 9:30 is the final game. Unless there's a 2-hour freaking power outage delay, then I'm up until almost midnight watching the game. Or not power outage, lightning. But I loved having these London games. To me, yeah, I I agree with you.
All right. So
Next game.
Packers Cardinals. So do not listen to a word this man says on this game. We're going to see our first tie of the NFL season this year. Okay.
You understand you've said that like every single week that there's going to be a tie.
And it's always the Packers. Come on. But no, so for real now, Jordan Love, he did come back. He lit it up. He looked great, poised in the pocket. It didn't look like the injury was really a concern to him anymore, which means like he fully healed both physically and mentally from this thing. So regardless who you have at quarterback, the Green Bay Packers are dangerous because they can run the ball.
And they've got a lot of offensive weapons, a lot of wide receiver weapons.
I see Green Bay winning this one, but it'll be more than the -5. But I do like the total.
You like the over or the under?
I like the under.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like Packers -5.5. The thing is,
Call of Duty's
the new Call of Duty game. The new Call of Duty game comes out October 25th, and we can harp on it all we want and make fun of it or whatnot, but the facts are facts. Every year that this Call of Duty game has came out, Kyler Murray's production has gone off of a cliff. And I understand that for the rest of us mere mortals, the game comes out in like 2 weeks I think it's October 25th is when it comes out.
Yep.
You can't tell me Kyler Murray ain't getting an early copy.
Oh, he probably has the demo of it already.
Exactly. And that's kind of the thing of like, I see it's time for Kyler to do his typical yearly thing. Arizona is hot. They came off winning San Francisco. But the problem is, mentally, he's not there. SB, I dropped the Browns D for the Texans D. Great one. Let's jump ahead to that game real quick. Let's jump ahead because we told him. Let's jump ahead. Houston at New England. We got SB on here. He just said he dropped Browns D for Tennessee's D. I like it because of this. We seen Drake May come in a couple weeks ago. They didn't even let him throw the ball there. And I genuinely think that they brought Drake May in because they know Houston is going to destroy them in this game. Let's throw Drake May out there. There's no point to have Jacoby Brissett out there. Put in Drake May. Let him get a feel for basically a team that he's probably going to have to face for the next 10 to 15 years if we want to be competitive. You know what I mean? Like, Houston is going to be a competitive team, a contending team for probably the next 10 to 15 years as long as Stroud stuff stays there. So bringing in Drake May for that game, I think is good. But here's the problem. Houston's going to load the box and stop the run because realistically, off the top of your head, who is the number one receiver for New England?
I know this. Hold up.
You don't know this.
Yeah, I do. Jacoby Myers.
Woo! Dodgers with a 2-run home run. Let's go. 8-0. San Diego, suck it.
Jacoby Myers, right?
No, Jacoby Myers on the Raiders.
I don't know, bro.
I mean, and that's my point. Outside of Ramondre Stevenson, New England is I don't want to say a laughing stock, but it ain't the New England that we've seen. I think they're going to try to run the ball. You're going to get a lot of guys. I think I know one New England player, and that's Polk, that kid that came from Washington last year.
Yeah.
That's the only one that I really know, and that's only because I pay a lot of attention to the rookies in the draft. Houston's going to load the box up. Even though it's huge, I like Houston -7. I honestly, SB said someone named Thornton. Exactly. Somebody named Thornton. That's their number one receiver, someone named Thornton. I like Houston -7. I honestly like the over of 38.5 even because I couldn't see Houston putting up 35.
Yeah.
I would say I could see Houston putting up 35 and New England either getting a lucky touchdown or getting 2 field goals in the game.
I could actually see this game being one of those Houston putting up 38 alone, and
Yep.
New England gets a total of maybe 12 points in garbage time.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Jump back. Let's go Indy at Tennessee now. So if anyone on here needs to know, so here's the thing. I am in the running. I'm in the running for $20,000. So far, I am second place in this King of the Hill tournament that I'm in. I have 50 wins. The guy in front of me has 52 wins. So I am dissecting each one of these games nonstop, inside and out, every single which way. Because all I've got to do is get 9 to 10 wins basically every single week, and I can be in contention for that 20K at the end of the year, be right then and there. This game I've gone back and forth for because Indy has so many injuries. So many. Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, and now I think it's Josh Downs, their leading receiver, also is now going to miss the game. I want to say Tennessee, but it's so hard because Indy is so struck with injuries. But then at the same point, you got freaking Footsteps Flacco out there playing like he's in the Super Bowl. So I'm so back and forth on this game. I want to hear your insight on it.
You just said it right there, man. Flacco. The man finds a way. Like last week, it was by a field goal. 24 points in the fourth quarter, airing it out. And I don't care if it was garbage time or, playing from behind or whatever. The man aired it out. He put 24 points on the scoreboard in one quarter. Okay? Flacco's going to find a way. Okay? He's going to find a way. I'm going to give it to – I want to go Colts here.
Is Will Levis playing? Is he back yet, or is he still out? Hold on.
Oh, I'm holding. Ain't that his?
I get what you're doing there. His little pause thing there. Let's see. Looks like Adam Schefter came out and said Titans will continue to ride with Will Levis. So I'm going to guess that Levis is back to healthy and ready to come in.
I got an over-under for you.
Well, so here's the thing. They said Callahan says Levis is 100% Titans QB if healthy.
I've got an over-under for you.
What?
If he plays in this game. 2, the amount of memes we get from it.
Under.
So here's one that I'm real interested in seeing.
One sec. Let me interrupt you real quick. SB. I like SB so far. He's been in here and he's talked to us. So SB, what about Aaron Rodgers? What should I do with A-Rod? There's Kirk Cousins, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams. On 3, 2, 1. Caleb Williams.
Caleb,
the last 3 weeks has shown he is the number 1 pick. Jaden Daniels, don't get me wrong, has balled out, but Jaden Daniels hasn't played anybody yet. Caleb Williams is winning games against decent, good teams. Go with Caleb Williams. Aaron Rodgers, I love Aaron Rodgers, but that team is in shambles. Firing your head coach, not an 0-5 start, not even a 1-4 start. Firing your head coach in a 2-3 start when you had a 1-point loss to Denver. To me, I think Aaron Rodgers, I don't even know if he's going to make it through the year. Let's see here. I don't know why it just popped up that I liked my own one. Wicks, Connors, McConkey for Evans and Najee. I would not. I'm with you, Rob. He said Najee. He's not a Najee fan. I'm not a Najee fan either. Najee is the equivalent to kind of Zeke Elliott. Um, he'll barrel down for about 2 to 3 yards and then falls to the ground. Over the long year, he seems to put together almost 1,000 yards rushing, if not more. But that's normally because he has 1 or 2 breakout games where he goes for almost 200 yards. Everything else is normally 50, 60-yard gains and maybe 3, 4, 5 touchdowns. I'm not a Najee fan. I stay away from Najee every single year. And with Justin Fields back there, still not really being able to throw the ball, the passing game isn't even opened up. And honestly, Pittsburgh has no decent wide receivers on their team to even open up the passing game. So everybody knows Najee is really their only option. Trade Kamara and Wilson for Gibbs and Neighbors.
Neighbors is out.
Neighbors is out, but depending on who your other wide receivers are, that could be good for the long term. Yeah, Neighbors is out this week. He'll be back next week. I personally, I would take it. I think Gibbs is going to have a big week against Dallas, and Gibbs is doing good week in and week out. Wilson did good last week, but it took 22 targets to get him to do good. 22 targets, and he barely got over 100 yards. Kamara, I think you're getting a better value for Gibbs over Kamara. And then I honestly think when healthy, Neighbors is a better value than Wilson. I like that trade. Personally, on my account, I would take it. We had to get you playing fantasy football, Bubba.
So moving on to a game that I'm kind of up in the air on. We got the Buccaneers and the Saints. And there's a lot that goes into this game that I don't think people realize. Right? So we know what's happening currently in Tampa Bay with the hurricane. This game is going to be played in New Orleans. New Orleans is also dealing with a little bit of this hurricane situation as well. So both teams are really wanting to put on for their city. You know, put on that positive, bring some positivity back. But then you got Spencer Rattler getting his first start. Getting his first start against not a great, not even a good, but a very decent Buccaneer defense. I mean, we know Baker Mayfield, he's going to look at Mike Evans 25 times and he's going to throw it to Godwin 5. Okay? We know that's going to happen. So, Kamara, if the Saints want this game, Kamara is going to have a career game.
Not only that, Kamara is going to have to do something that he's not used to doing. He's going to have to run the ball downhill. I mean, and that's going to be the problem, I think, for him. I do have Tampa winning this game. I think you're right. I think both teams are playing for a lot more than just the win. You're playing for, we kind of wish this game was in Tampa. It'd be a great story and stuff, but I do believe Tampa minus the 3.5. The 41.5 over under, I like the over. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game on both sides. Just traded Shaheed for Jonathan Taylor. Win or loss? Long-term win. This weekend, loss, because Jonathan Taylor may not even be playing. So long-term, I think yes, but short-term, loss. I like Tampa, and I do like the over. I think this is going to be a game that you're going to see potentially kind of like what we seen on Thursday night with Tampa and Atlanta. I think it's going to be a massive, high-scoring game. And because of that, I like the over the 41.5, and I like Tampa minus the 3.5.
I like Tampa with I like it. I like the 3.5. And like you said, high-scoring game. I mean, look for the ending to be like a 28-24 game.
Yeah.
Give me the over.
Um, I got a couple here: Kincaid, Jacoby, and Javante for Kelsey and Algier. Good trade? I would say no. Kincaid is doing fairly well for the Bills. Javonte Williams is Denver's main running back. With Algier, Kelsey's great, but with Algier, you're getting Bijan's leftovers, basically. When Bijan gets tired and does the helmet tap, then Algier gets to come in. To me, if you have Kincaid, Jacoby, and Javante, I would keep them more than I would give up Kelsey and Algier, just because of the production you're getting back. Kelsey, better than Kincaid, yes, but Jacoby and Javante, you're going under Algier. So for me, that's a no. Harrison for Ingram, Downs, and White. I have Harrison. Again, no, you're giving up way more than what you're giving back. If you do that, you have a bunch of empty roster spots that you're gonna have to fill with random free agents. I personally don't like it. Goff or Herbert? Goff. Dallas's defense is horrible. I definitely would go with Goff. Tolbert or Jacoby Myers. Honestly, toss up either one of those there. I think you're going to be in about the same amount of points. Auten or Laporta. Laporta, Dallas's defense, again, is horrible. I think Laporta is going to have the big games. I dropped Wicks for Josh Downs. That's not bad. Trade Devontae Smith and Brian Robinson Jr. for Achane and Debo. I wouldn't. Brian Robinson Jr. has been killing it for Washington. Devontae, when he comes back, is really effective wide receiver too. The problem with Achane is everybody was super high on Achane last year because he had a couple big games for Miami, and since he really hasn't done much of anything. Same thing with Debo. Debo's getting up there in age. You have anybody writing in yours?
No.
Normally you have a couple of questions in yours.
Nope.
I have Gibbs, Cook, Pickens, Marvin Harrison Jr., BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr. in the Kincaid Kelsey trade. I'd still say keep with what you've got. You got Gibbs and Cook there for your running backs, but Pickens, Marvin Harrison Jr., I just don't see you getting back in that trade what you're giving up. Shaheed or Olave, worried with Carr out. Don't worry about with Carr out. Spencer Rattler is going to be throwing the ball all over the place. Screen passes. I like Olave in this game. I believe he's going to target Olave a lot. All right, let's move on to the next game.
Browns
Go ahead.
Eagles. And I'll go ahead and let you know, if you have Saquon on your team, you start him this week. Saquon versus the Browns defense. If he doesn't eclipse the 125-yard rushing mark, there's a serious problem here.
I agree. I do agree. I do think AJ Brown and Devontae. We have to see if AJ Brown and Devontae are healthy.
The only way the Browns stand a chance in this game is if Watson's on the bench and you start Jameis Winston. That's the only way you stand a chance.
I like Philly in this game to win. I just don't know if I like the 9.5. I think to me that's a lot of points. I like Philly. I just think Cleveland can keep it at least close enough to keep it right at that 10-point mark. Let's see. We've got giving away DK and Brian Robinson, receiving Achane and Evans. Yes or no? I also have Godwin. If you have Godwin already, I wouldn't trade because you're never going to start Godwin and Evans at the same time. So there's no point to have them both on the same team. Um,
Yeah.
SB finally admitted he's a Browns fan. Hey, don't talk about my Browns. I want DTR, Dorian Thompson Robinson. We want Jameson Williams out there. And until you all get Chubb back, if Chubb is back and healthy, then it could be pretty decent. But until Chubb comes back, the Browns are the same old Brownies, unfortunately.
So this game here, like this one is going to have you on the edge of your seat. It is going to be a blow for blow game. Yes, Baltimore's defense is great. Yes, the Commanders' defense is great. But we're about to see two quarterbacks who are similar, not identical, but similar. Show who's the best dual threat quarterback in the league. Look for this. I mean, the 51.5, I'm taking the over. And
uh,
I'm gonna give a big pug. Give me Washington for the win.
Joe writes, who should I try to get from? Who should I try to get for Marvin Harrison? If you have Marvin Harrison, you try to get a middle tier wide receiver. You're not.
TJ, real quick, you're right. The Commanders' defense hasn't been mentioned in the same sentence as great, but the Redskins have. Let's not forget the time we had LaRon Landry, Sean Taylor, rest in peace, the GOAT. You had Drake. I mean, not Drake. You had London Fletcher, like Carlos Rogers. So many greats over there for the Redskins. Now the Commanders, not so much. You're right.
But what I was saying to Joe here that wrote, he asked who he should get for Marvin Harrison. I say go for a middle tier guy, somebody along the lines of like a T. Higgins, Javonte Williams, potentially Devontae Smith, or even possibly like Stephon Diggs in Houston. If you're trying to get kind of that second tier style guy to try to see if you could get that picked up. You're not going to get a CD Lamb or anything of that nature. You're not going to get you're not going to get a Jamar Chase, but you should be able to get kind of a middle tier guy for it. Here's my thing with this game, with the Commanders Baltimore. As you said, Washington's defense has been pretty good, but the fact is they haven't faced anyone. The only team that they've faced that is really a playoff ready team as of right now, and I understand people are going to be upset about, Cincinnati. Let's not forget, Cincinnati is what, 1-4 on the year?
Absolutely, TJ.
Like, to me, the Commanders haven't faced anyone other than the Buccaneers so far, and the Bucs wiped the floor with them. Baltimore has faced the same Kansas City team. They have faced Dallas. They have faced the defending Super Bowl champions and lost by a toe. I believe this game. Do I think Baltimore is going to win? Yes. Do I think that Baltimore is going to win by 7 points? No, I do not. I do think this game is a close game, but I do have Baltimore pulling it out just like they did last week. Baltimore pulling it out. Maybe not overtime, but Baltimore pulling it out last second.
Like I said, I've got an upset here. Give me Commanders. And like I said, give me the Commanders, and I like the over on the 51.
See, I think that's where it's going to be sneaky, is everybody's expecting this to be a huge, high-powered game. I just don't think that there's going to be outscoring. Watch this game end up being like 13-10. Could be. Joe said, I also have Jordan Mason. Should I keep him or trade him away? Keep him, because until we know if McCaffrey is coming back or not, he's been one of the best running backs out there in the NFL. Someone offered me Jalen Waddle for Garrett Wilson. I rejected it. That's a good option to reject it.
TJ, he hasn't played a defense this good yet. So Baltimore, I mean, I'm going to give their dues. I mean, right now you got Roquan Smith being mentored by Ray Lewis. I mean, it don't get any better than that. And then, you got Marlon Humphrey in the secondary, who is just an absolute lockdown when he shows up. I mean, haven't played the defense this strong yet, but Baltimore also hasn't played a quarterback like this yet. Although, yeah, they do go up against Lamar in practice and all that. That's why I brought up these quarterbacks are similar, not identical. Jaden Daniels shows in this game why he's the rookie of the year. So, moving on to
real quick, I got one that they've wrote twice. Do I win? I get Amaron, Montgomery, and Dobbins, and I gave away Kenneth Walker and Garrett Wilson.
Win, but
I personally,
you don't start Montgomery and Amaron at the same
time.
And
Amaron at the same time. And that's my problem is you won with Amaron over Garrett Wilson, and you won with Montgomery over Kenneth Walker, and you get Dobbins in there as a little bonus. But the problem was you're not ever going to start Amaron and Montgomery in the same game because every time that Goff passes the ball to like Laporta or Jameson Williams or hands the ball off to Gibbs, you're losing double the amount of points. You're not gaining points on Amaron. You're not gaining points on Montgomery. Every time that Goff hands the ball to Montgomery, you're losing out on points on Amaron. Every time he throws it to Amaron, you're losing out on points on Montgomery at that point. It's a losing situation there. You never, ever, ever should start two guys from the same exact team. Because when you look at it with fantasy football, if you're in a typical league, you have one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, one flex, right? I'm not going to go into kickers and defense, but you have, quarterback, running backs, wide receiver, tight end, and flex. 7 players. You have 7 opportunities. You should have 7 different opportunities. Not if you have quarterback and running back from the same team, you're missing out on every time that quarterback hands the ball off, your quarterback's not getting points. Every time that quarterback throws to a different wide receiver that's not your running back, you're missing out on points. Every single opportunity. The ultimate goal is every snap, my quarterback is throwing the ball and I'm getting points. Every snap, my quarterback is handing the ball off and that running back is getting me points. Every play, you want to be able to get points for every single player on your team. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen, but that's what the dream is. That's what you want, is every time a snap happens, I'm creating points on every single one of my players. Not I'm losing points because of a handoff, because of a pass to a different player. That's why I hate it. Somebody said, should I start A.J. Brown? Depends on if he's healthy or not. That's the ultimate question. We'll find that out in the next couple days.
So, hey, by the way, rookie quarterback, we got.
By the way, boo boo. When you respond to somebody in your chat, tell me what they're saying. I can't see your chat. So you're responding to TJ. You're like, yeah, I agree, TJ. I don't know what TJ's saying.
TJ said that Jaden Daniels hadn't played a defense as good as Baltimore.
Oh, okay. You were like responding. I was like, I don't know what you're responding to because I can't see your chat.
All right, so for a third time, going on to another rookie quarterback, Bo Nix. So Harbaugh was handed a bad hand this year. I mean, the Chargers are depleted. All they really have is J.K. Dobbins. And Bo Nix has figured it out. He's figured it out. I don't like that they have the Chargers, pick to win here. I do like the over, though.
35.5 is super low. That's basically just 5 touchdowns. I agree with you. This is a battle of two high prolific coaching names. Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh. I had to think about which one it was. Jim Harbaugh. You have Oregon quarterbacks galore in this game. Herbert and Bo Nix, both coming from Oregon. But I think Denver being at home, coming off that giant win, coming off Bo Nix playing great, I just don't see a way that Denver really loses this game. Like you said, Chargers are depleted. It's J.K. Dobbins or nothing. I don't understand why Chargers are -3 in this game.
Well,
I think Denver's got one of the here. Let me say this up. Denver's got one of the best defenses in football. I think they have the 6th ranked defense in football.
Yeah. So
Chargers definitely don't have the 6th best offense.
TJ said that they should trade Quentin Johnson while he's still on his rookie contract. He hasn't proved anything, and he still has some value that they won't get later. Ladd McConkey has been better so far, and they might be able to draft a good receiver in the draft upcoming.
I know that their last game, Quentin Johnson had a pretty decent game because I think Chargers had the bye week last week, I believe. Quentin Johnson, I know, had a game where he had 2 touchdowns, and I think that was their last game that they actually played. I'd like to see Quentin Johnson and how he can do, because the problem is, and with it, TJ, what you're saying, I get what you're saying with the rookie contract, but the problem is, with the lack of what we've seen from Quentin Johnson, what are they going to trade him for? You know what I mean? Like, who's going to make that trade? Especially when you got a guy like Devontae Adams out there floating. We've seen what Devontae can do. Devontae is the guy that everybody's like, oh, we can get him. He's a game changer. A lot of these teams look at Quentin Johnson and say, well, I mean, he'd be a good 3rd wide receiver, I guess, on our team. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't see Quentin Johnson until he can have a couple good games in a row. I don't see him being trade value that any team is really going to reach for. And the Chargers, if they do try to trade him, what are they going to get? A 7th round pick, a 6th round pick? All you're going to do with the 7th or 6th round pick is basically draft another Quentin Johnson. You know what I mean?
So, Pittsburgh and Raiders, and now let's remember, the Raiders they're not going to go with Minshew. I did see earlier, we made our jokes about who they're going to start, but AOC is going to start.
Still no Devontae, though.
Still no Devontae.
And I'm not 100% sure on Max.
So, give me the over on the 36, and Pittsburgh wins by more than 3.
So I agree with you on the Pittsburgh. I think that Justin Fields is probably going to run for about 80 yards in this game, especially if there's no Max Crosby.
Yep.
I do like Pittsburgh -3. I don't like the 36.5, though, over that you took. I think it is going to be an under game. I think this is going to be a game that you could see being 10-7.
No, not
Pittsburgh.
Not this one. I mean, I see why you would say something like that, but not this one. I mean, Pittsburgh, they have ways to score. They've got the ways. They
put up 17 last week against Dallas. It was 20-17. Okay. That's only 37 points right there. But the Raiders, are you going to tell me the Raiders are going to put up 20?
I can see Pittsburgh putting up 28.
You're kidding, right?
For real.
Who's going to put up the 28?
TJ, thank you. I think Fields will have a great game, especially with Max being out. So, I mean,
don't get me wrong. I agree with you. Fields is going to have a good game.
On that defense is out. The only thing you have to worry about on the Raiders is not going to be on the field. So Justin Fields, this is going to be his game.
Week 1 against the Falcons. 18-10 final score. Week 2 against the Broncos, 13-16 final score. Week 3 against the Chargers, 20-10 final score. all unders.
Okay. You always
Colts
talk about
27-24. Yes, they went over on the Colts. But then Dallas 20-17 went over by a half point. It's not going to happen. The Raiders have too much going on. Too much.
yeah,
Antonio Pierce is on the hot end. Antonio Pierce is on that hot seat. And I want to go over that here in a minute. Once we're done making our picks, I want to ask you that question. Who's the next to go? Who's on that hot seat? But to me, Pittsburgh, I can see Pittsburgh putting up 13. It could be a 13-7 game, 13-6 game. I just don't see this game getting 36. And I hate going for the under, because guess what the under means? Good defense. A defensive game. I hate defensive games. I like offense. I like points. I like scoring. I am literally sitting here saying this is going to be a low-scoring game.
Okay.
Even if Pittsburgh puts up, like you said, 28, I could see the Raiders putting up 7. That still only makes 35. That's still an under.
Okay.
But we at least do agree Pittsburgh minus the 3 is a good one. That's probably going to be one of my locks. One of my 3 locks for the weekend is Pittsburgh minus the 3.
So, Lions, Cowboys. So I'll tell you one thing that I do not like here. I don't like the 52.
No, I don't either. Dallas played Sunday night, late Sunday night, Monday morning, basically. Dak Prescott's the first ever person in NFL history to throw a touchdown pass on Sunday and Monday in the same exact week. I don't know if you knew that or not. It's actually fact. Dak Prescott is the first ever quarterback to throw a touchdown on Sunday and Monday in the same week, because he threw that last one in overtime. Or right at the end of the game, not overtime. But I agree with you. Detroit minus the 3, I think, is where you're going with it. And I do see the under. Here's my question. Aiden Hutchinson, 2.5 sacks, over under.
2.5?
Mm-hmm.
Under. And
you think under?
2. I give him 2.
I'm saying over only because I think Detroit comes out. And remember, people, I am a Cowboys fan, but I think Detroit comes out. I think by the end of the first quarter, the score is 14-0. Dallas can't run the ball. We just can't. And Detroit, their run stopping, Campbell at the linebacker, Aiden Hutchinson controlling that line. To me, Detroit plays so great. I like Detroit minus the 3. I like the under. Not because I don't think points are going to be scored in this game, but because 52 is just way too much points. I got one real quick here. Should I start Geno or Joe Flacco? Geno plays San Francisco, which I don't like. I'm with you on that. I don't like Geno against San Francisco. We talked about that game a little earlier. Geno, that's a short turnaround week. Geno did not look good in that game, but here's the problem. You don't start Geno and you go with Joe Flacco. It hasn't been announced that Anthony Richardson's not playing this week. So if you don't start Geno and you go with Joe Flacco and then Anthony Richardson ends up starting, you got to have a backup plan in mind, somebody in free agency or anything that you can go in and pick up. Last say Aiden O'Connell, Andy Dalton maybe in Carolina, somebody. You're going to have somebody lined up and ready for it if you do go with that. Don't get me wrong. I like Joe Flacco over Geno this week, especially with him going against the Niners. But at that same point, you're doing a risk there if Anthony Richardson ends up starting. So just keep that in mind.
So TJ,
what he said,
they give Caleb Williams full control and let him sling the ball.
This isn't college, TJ. Unfortunately, NFL players, NFL quarterbacks don't get full control. Even Rodgers doesn't have full control.
So this game here, could we potentially see Kirk Chains throw for 500 yards in back-to-back games?
No, I don't think you'll see that. The only reason why I say that is just because that fact of I think Atlanta is going to get up quick, and you're going to see. I think you're going to see. You could potentially see 150 yards by Bijan Robinson running the ball
Possibly.
because I think Atlanta is going to get up big. Kirko Chains threw the ball a lot, 500 something yards last week. That's a lot of throwing the ball. They've got to give his arm a little bit of rest. I think this is going to be more of a running game. Run the rock, run the rock, run the rock until Carolina cannot even stand. And I think with doing that, I think Atlanta, I do like Atlanta minus the 6. I like the under. I don't think it's going to be 46.5 just because with them running the ball, that clock's going to be ticking, ticking, ticking. And I think that's going to be why it's a lower scoring game. I like Atlanta, but I think this is Bijan's big game. It's not going to be Drake London. It's not going to be Kirk Cousins having the big game this week. I think Bijan has the big week this one.
I go with you. I like Atlanta at the -6, and I like the under.
Hey,
Uh,
real quick, a lot of you guys are following the creators, which are great. I really appreciate it. Travis really appreciates it. If you guys can, though, on our last page, our last posts on our TikTok, it shows the Gridiron Insights TikTok. These are our personal TikToks. Please go in and like the Gridiron Insights TikTok. Follow that one as well. We are trying to get that one up and running. We kind of just started it, so there's not a lot of stuff on there. We do post our picks for the week. If you have any fantasy questions or anything, you can reach out to that one, and we can answer the fantasy questions if we're not able to get to it during the show. So please go and follow the Gridiron Insights TikTok page as well.
so going on to Sunday night game.
Boring Sunday night game.
Huh?
Boring Sunday night game. We're getting robbed on Sunday Night Football this week.
So with this game, what you want to talk about afterwards with the whole hot seat? I got a hot seat coach right here. The Bengals head coach. You were giving
I could see it.
a Ferrari, and you're staying in the slow lane.
I could see it. The problem with it is I don't think a head coach is going to get fired after a win. And unfortunately, they play the Giants with no Malik Neighbors. And so to me, I got Cincinnati winning -3.5. They're pissed off. They gave away that game against freaking Baltimore. They should have beaten Baltimore last week, and they gave it away. I think they're going to come back, and they're just going to absolutely destroy the Giants. Like we said earlier in the show, the Giants had some guy named Tracy as their leading rusher and Darius Slayton as their leading wide receiver or their leading receiver last week. I just don't see the Giants playing good 2 weeks in a row. And I see Cincinnati blowing them out. So Zach Taylor, I think, is going to keep his job for at least another week just because of that fact of I think Cincinnati just blows them out, honestly.
I like Cincinnati here, but and when I say hot seat, I'm not talking about will be fired right after this game. But in the next 4 weeks, if you're not in the winning column, we might see a head coach change here. How do I feel about John Harbaugh? He's had, I don't want to say he's had it easy, but he's had so many players that were coaches, that are basically coaches on the field. So his job has always been easy. I mean, yeah, he chokes away games. Like, that's exactly what I was going to get to. I mean, it was easy for him when he had, Terrell Suggs and Ed Reed and Haloti Ngata and, of course, Ray Lewis. I mean, Chris McAllister. No, well, he wasn't there for Chris McAllister. That's a little too late. But, I mean, he's had all.
But yeah, he's had a lot of guys that's made it a lot easier. He's got the LeBron James of players. You don't need to be a great head coach. You just got to do just enough to not screw up. Joe has wrote this question a couple times, so I want to answer it. What do I do with Ramondre Stevenson? I just don't know if I can keep him the rest of the season. Honestly, I wouldn't get rid of him yet. Wait and see how Drake May does this weekend for the Patriots. It's hard starting Ramondre just because of how bad the Patriots are all around. There's a couple guys in the league that it is really, really hard to start them just because their team in general isn't as good. SB says drop A-Rod or trade him. Honestly, you could try to trade him, but you're really not going to get really much of anything back for him, which brings us into this final game, the Monday night game. Buffalo at New York. Both teams kind of got kicked in the mouth last week. Buffalo gave away their game. New York
went to another country and forgot how to play football.
I mean, they had a shot at the end, but, I'm so back and forth in this game. If Khalil Shakir is healthy and going to play, I really do like Buffalo.
TJ, that's the question. That's the question that we're working our way to. Who is the head coach for the Jets? Who is going to be that intern guy until they figure it out? Who?
Well, they named the defensive coordinator. But, there's this coach of Bill Belichick who would love to come in. Could you imagine Bill Belichick coming into New York and taking that team to the playoffs and basically just waving at Robert Kraft? Hi, you decide to let me go, but bye.
I can't. Honestly, I feel like that is the most Belichick thing to do.
Oh yeah, I agree with you.
And if I'm him, I'm not waiting on the phone call. I'm making the phone call. Hey.
Yeah. Could you imagine? Hey, Woody Johnson, I'm sorry for all those years that my team just absolutely shit on your team, but I'd really love a job, it could be, hey, let me pay you back for all those losses that I gave you. Let me get you some wins and get into the playoffs here.
Hey, so TJ made an interesting point. You brought up Antonio Pierce being on the hot seat. Belichick in Vegas.
So hold on, before we get into that, let's do this last pick.
Because of Tom Brady's ownership.
Buffalo at New York. I personally, I'm taking Buffalo in this one. Buffalo has shown me more. We've seen them do more. Yeah, they had a bad last week. Jets also had a bad last 2 weeks. They did lose to Denver 10-9 as well. I like Buffalo more than I like the Jets in this one. So I do like Buffalo minus the 2.5.
Absolutely. Buffalo, they got kicked in the mouth because they kicked themselves in the mouth. All right.
Yep.
They're going to learn from their mistake. A-Rod, he'd thrown the ball 100 times to one guy in the game. So you double him, game's over for your offense. Okay. Then the questions in the front office and the win percentage for a interim head coach on his first game is not that great. I see Buffalo almost putting up 40 by themselves.
I can see that.
35 points from Buffalo and then maybe 10 from the Jets. So I'm taking the over.
My thing is you put the defensive coordinator as your interim head coach when you have Nathaniel Hackett right there, who's been a head coach.
Yep.
He was in Denver before Sean Payton.
Yep.
On the offensive side, who's making the calls? Is it Nathaniel Hackett or is it Aaron Rodgers? And also, we talked about Woody Johnson. I had a thought. Do you think Woody Johnson, because it came out that Robert Saleh was going to be letting go of Nathaniel Hackett before Robert Saleh himself got fired, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think Woody Johnson called up Aaron Rodgers and said, Saleh or Nathaniel Hackett? One stays, one goes. Who's it going to be? Rodgers said he wanted to go to the Jets because Hackett was there. Hackett was his OC and QB coach in Green Bay, so that's where he wanted to go. Do you think that call came into him and he was like, I'm rolling with Hackett?
I know who the perfect candidate to be head coach for the Jets are.
I'm not available, unfortunately, so.
Put me in. I'll turn the offense around. Yes, the defense
let's go there.
That can save them. Hackins is stopping the team. Absolutely, TJ.
Who's on the hot seat? What head coach?
Oh, I said mine. I mean,
I got a couple.
We kind of see Antonio Pierce, like it's kind of visible. You're on the hot seat. You talk a lot of mad big boy stuff during the off season, and the Raiders are doing what the Raiders do. Like, it's nothing special. But
so I've got a couple.
Bengals.
I've got. Well, you got Zach Taylor. I don't think he's going to lose though, but I understand why you're saying the hot seat. Jacksonville.
Yep.
I think that if he loses this game against the Bears, I don't think Peterson is there anymore. I think Peterson's gone.
Which makes more sense to what TJ was saying earlier about Caleb Williams just airing it out or whatever. Jack, you know them players do not want Peterson anymore. So.
Oh, no. It's the same thing that happened in the Eagles. Remember?
Exactly.
Eagles didn't want him there either.
So they're just going to let up and let you throw the game without throwing the game?
Which leads me to my next one. There are two coaches that I think are on the hot seat, and they're facing each other this week. It could be the battle of the coaches that lose. Cleveland and Philly. Both teams came into this season with, when we talked about the NFC East and we talked about the AFC North, Cleveland and Philly were both talked about teams that could win their divisions.
Uh-huh.
And Cleveland brought in, who was it from Denver? Not Cortland Sutton. They brought in Jerry Jeudy. They brought in Jerry Jeudy to pair with Amari Cooper.
Hey,
they've got Njoku.
TJ just brought up a real good point. Cleveland's coach will stay simply because two-time coach of the year. He just can't control Watson, which takes us back to what we said earlier. You put Watson on the bench and you put Jabbo in.
I see what you're saying with him being two-time coach of the year, but if you're not winning, if you're not coach of the year this year, it doesn't really matter. That team, Cleveland doesn't want to go back to the old days. Cleveland doesn't want to go back to those losing games. Same thing with Philly. Philly is a team that's primed. You've got Saquon, you've got A.J. Brown, you've got Jalen Hurts, you've got one of the best, supposed to be one of the best defenses out there. And instead, you're throwing up duds in games. I think, honestly, it would not shock me.
Jameis already has the locker room, and he already has the fans. Give him the reins and watch what – I mean, I'm not saying that Jameis is going to lead the Browns to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that they're going to make a deep playoff run, but he'll have a winning season.
And then we already talked about Antonio Pierce with the Raiders. If they lose that game, I mean, I want to say just because he's the former player, I want to say like he can turn it around. I just think the Raiders they're in shambles. I think this year, I think Shador is going to that team next year, and I think that's the thing is, I think next year you see Shador, and then you're going to see another Sanders there, and it ain't Shiloh.
You think Dion?
Dion has said he doesn't want to coach pros. Dion also said he didn't want to coach major college. He wanted to be at HBCUs. Things change when money comes calling. And Dion don't need the money. But you know what Dion does like? being there to coach his kids.
Yep.
And to me, Raiders need a quarterback. We already know this. Raiders are going to have one of the top picks for QB. We know this. Is Shador the top quarterback gone? No. But guess what? He's probably going to be there around 5, 6, 7 when the Raiders come up to pick.
Yep.
They're going to need it. And guess what? Vegas, desirable location.
Hey,
right?
Well, TJ, I mean, that's kind of on everybody's draft board. All signs are pointing for Shador to be in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not talking for the
possibility.
We're talking Giants, but
if the Giants keep winning, as they've been doing right now, they're not going to have that top pick to be able to get Shador. I'm just saying, Vegas is a destination that people want to go to. Just like Miami, we talk about some of these places that teams, Atlanta, some of these places where free agents want to go to. Tampa, New Orleans, they want to go to these places, right? Vegas is one of those places as well. It's a destination city that these guys can see themselves living in. If you bring in Dion as your head coach with Shador, you can't tell me that that's not going to bring in some of these free agent names during the offseason to rebuild that team, just like he did in Colorado.
TJ, we actually have those two guys going elsewhere. So TJ said he thinks the Raiders would do better with either Cam Ward, which I believe will be in Miami, or Quinn Ewers, which we think will be probably – I see Ewers either going to Tennessee or –
I got Cam. I think I got Cam going to Cleveland. I got Cam Ward going to Cleveland. And I've got Quinn. I have Quinn Ewers, I think, going to New York.
Yeah.
I got Quinn going to New York to take over. And it may not be the Giants. I think Quinn could be drafted by the Jets to take over for Rodgers, because Rodgers maybe only has, the way he's playing this year, this may be it for Rodgers. He's not lighting it up like we thought. I've got Quinn going to one of the New York teams. Yeah, I mean, that's really, I don't see anybody else's teams on hot seats. I mean, you could throw Carolina in there, but are they really a hot seat team right now?
Hey, they could hire me. I'm telling you, I could turn that franchise around.
They're selling tickets for $31 to that game.
Hey, look, and you know what?
I got one more, though. I got one more, though.
I seen what the Jets were paying this coach that they just fired or whatever. Look, you could give me his minute salary for a week. Or no, for the month. And I'll come coach that team, and I promise.
He's making $20K a day to sit on his ass.
Exactly.
You could pay me.
Give me that a month.
Shoot, you could give me $5K for the month. I'll take that. I don't got to work. I get to sit here and coach football. All right.
I can sleep at the field. Hell yeah.
So I make pretty much what I'm making now a month. But I'm also getting to just sit around and coach. I'm getting to hang out with NFL players. Okay, I'll take that. Buffalo. What about Buffalo? If they lose this game to the Jets, you don't see that coach on the hot seat? McDermott?
Buffalo's offense is kind of in a rebuild. We know this. You get rid of Diggs, and although he might have been a cancer and drama and all, you can't replicate what he did on the field. So
I'm pretty sure, didn't you send me a message in the middle of that game going, Coleman?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because Coleman is a national treasure. Imagine a TV show with him, Marshawn Lynch, and what's the other man's name? Hell, put Aaron Rodgers in there. Imagine a TV show with them three. Put Marshawn, Coleman, and Leggett all on a show together.
Well, it's been a hell of a show. We went way longer than what we thought we were going to with this NFL one. Anybody that's watching, if you do have any other fantasy questions, please reach out to our TikTok page on Gridiron Insights. It is on our it is on our. Did I say Facebook?
I thought you said MySpace.
I don't know what I said. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. Our TikTok, Gridiron Insights TikTok page. If you go to either one of our two's TikToks, it is the last video that you see is our Gridiron Insights one. Click on there. Follow our Gridiron Insights one. Send us any message you got for your fantasy football or betting, anything that you want, college bets, anything of that nature. Follow that one, please. This video will be posted on YouTube probably tomorrow morning since it's already 10:30. So if you missed anything on breakdowns of the game or any fantasy questions, go back and watch the YouTube. We pretty much answered just about everything. Any closing statements or anything?
No. T's and P's go out to Florida, especially Tampa. May God be with you.
Stay safe. Please, 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 please stay safe. Evacuate. If you can evacuate, bear down and hold on for dear life. So thank you all for tuning in. Gridiron Insights. We will see you all Monday for our college football episode edition. Huge weekend of college football. Huge weekend of NFL football. And we'll go all over it same time next week, plus also Monday for college. So thank you all, and you all have a good night. Peace.